Sidney Barrett, the one and only madcap genius laugh that we all love. The posh English accent and the mentally deranged brain of a drug-addled lunatic. I'm going to make a little portrait of him using a cheap graphic design software. I ended up making this thing, I put it on Facebook because I'm down with the kids, and I said, "Who do you think this is?" And my mother said, "Lady Gaga." So she's down with the kids. She knows who Lady Gaga is, but she didn't know who Sid Barrett was. He actually ends up looking like a bearded lady by the time I'm finished with him, which was unfortunate, and I've only got myself to blame. I love Sid Barrett, though. To me, he's kind of the modern day version of the classic archetype of the doomed poet, the crazy, mad artist poet, like Thomas Chatterton. There's a painting called The Death of Thomas Chatterton, who, when he was 17, he was a poet, and this is in the 1700s, 1750 or something. And his heart was broken by some floozy, and he decided to drink laudanum, and ended up popping his clogs or whatever type of, I don't know, it wasn't Holland, so I'm not sure what they were wearing back then. Something very smelly, probably, covered in horse shit. Then, of course, there's Arthur Rimbaud, or Arthur Rimbaud, the French poet who did all his work. Best poetry by the age of 16, 17. Then embarked on a homoerotic homosexual affair with an older man called Paul Verlaine. Both of them were, for the most part, heterosexual, as it was back then. But their love of poetry was so vast that they ended up making love in Camden Town for a bit. So anyway, Sid is our version for like baby boomers and Generation X people. He's our version of them, the crazy mad genius. Another thing about Sid is that I love is he wasn't the first to do it, but he introduced that fey upper middle class English received pronunciation way of singing in a song, which goes really well with raunchy guitars. I don't know why. Think of T-Rex, Mark Bolan. I drive a Rolls Royce because it's good for my voice. That one's not the best title of that thing now. I can't think of the word. Precious on, I'm recording this example. Well, that's quite a difficult word. No wonder I couldn't remember it. So I'm just assembling here various images. This is the first time I've ever done this. I haven't a clue what I'm doing. Oh, I've made him go turquoise, and now a deep navy blue, and now back to the grey of the navy blue again. Oh, it's like he's changing. Oh, violet. Sounds like one of his songs. This is a bright red. I'm back to blue again. Wow, this is exciting, eh? So Sid, I'll tell you a bit about him. He's born in January 6th, 1946. Classic baby boomer year to be born. And he grew up in Cambridge, and his father was a pathologist. I saw him. He's on all of this is based on Wikipedia, obviously. His father kind of looks like Penfold from Danger Mouse. There's a photo of him. I wouldn't say he exudes rock and roll glamour, his father, but and he died quite early when Sid was 16, I think, or 15. Grew up in a middle class uh, atmosphere, middle class milieu, which is quite important in Britain, especially England. They're quite separated, the classes. But he didn't go to private school. He went to a grammar school, I assume, where he was friends with Roger Waters since a young age. Roger Waters is the bass player. And Roger Waters, I recently recall, was on a podcast and said he felt bullied by the other members of Pink Floyd when he was in Pink Floyd. And the drummer, Nick Mason, said, right, yeah, Stalin was bullied, which I thought was kind of funny. Uh, so Sid Grew up in Cambridge. Obviously, a very bohemian, artistic temperament. And the Beatles came along. Even before that, I think he was playing guitar when he was 14, 1960. And he was playing rhythm and blues, banging out the that kind of stuff. That's an original composition, by the way. I wrote that. So you can use it. Go ahead. And he was friends with Roger Waters since they were children, I already said. And then he kind of formed a band and he started playing with David Gilmour. They became friends too. They've all known each other since they were teenagers, which is a good thing for a band, I think. It's like a overgrown Boy Scouts troop, most bands with less, more drug abuse and less sexual abuse, hopefully, at least of each other, the members. So here we go. Well, this is good. You see that? Yeah. It's all going to work out. I'm just trying to fit as many ads in. I'm trying to draw this out. So he formed a band and then another band and then they all kind of went down to London. Him and well, I think no, Roger Waters went to architecture school where he met up with Nick Mason and Richard Wright. Richard Wright is obviously a classically trained pianist, so he knows what he's doing. Nick Mason had never really played drums before, which is okay. You're just banging things basically, hopefully in time. And they kind of formed a band, and then I think they obviously kept in touch with Sid. And then Sid came down to London and they started playing around town. And it was right at the cusp of the swinging 60s in London, London Underground. The first time he took LSD was in 1965. And in Wikipedia, he says he ended up in a bath with one of his friends. So you can imagine the kind of colours that they would have seen there when they finally pulled back their foreskins. Because that's one thing about baby boomer generation, not baby boomer British bands. They're almost all of them, without exception, have foreskins. Sorry to disappoint you, ladies. Just the way it is. But enough of smegma. Let's keep moving on here. So there he is. They get together. He's doing lots of drugs. It's the swinging 60s. Supposedly, he was thinking about trying to become join a sect of Sikhism, as you do. Like it says, it's the 1960s and you're taking lots of drugs. I mean, kind of par for the course. I know when I was taking lots of aspirin, I was thinking of joining Walmart Buyers Club, which is a form of Sikhism. Don't tell anybody I said that. I don't want to be attacked with a scimitar. He joined this thing, and then he got. Oh yeah, they rejected him, but his friend was allowed to join this sect of a religious cult, I guess, religious sect. But he was really devastated that he wasn't able to join a sect of Sikhism, which might have helped later if he did join them to cover up for the unfortunately pretty bad male pattern baldness he ended up with, which he made even worse by shaving all his hair and eyebrows off. But we'll get to that later. So they're kicking around. It's the mid 60s. They start playing the UFO Club, which is an underground London club in the swinging 60s on Tottenham Court Road. I'm not sure. There used to be there's a hideous modernist 60s block right there because I looked at it. I've been there. I'm not sure if that's the original building, but it was downstairs. Everyone would take LSD and do that horrible hippie dance when you're on LSD of bobbing your head up and down and having convulsions like an epileptic fit, which is supposed to be an expression of how groovy you were feeling at the particular time. And he and Pink Floyd. Pink Floyd, as he came up with the name, was supposedly named after two blues musicians, Pink and Floyd. I don't know their last names, just Pink and Floyd. Floyd is pretty cool. I don't know about Pink. I guess that's more appropriate for nowadays. Having the name Pink. I mean, when I think of Pink, I don't really think of a blues musician. I think more of a female pop star who looks like Eddie Izzard. Where was I? So they were doing psychedelic stuff. The great thing about psychedelic music is that you don't really have to be very good at playing your instrument. You can just sort of do drones and bang on your instrument with saucepans and various kitchen utensils. And if the people are on enough drugs, they'll like it. And that's what they did. But great thing about Pink Floyd, they actually came up with lots of great music to take drugs to. That was a real great career move back then. Create music for people to take drugs to. That was the modus operandi. I know that when we were all teenagers listening to Pink Floyd, we were all on drugs, mostly marijuana and alcohol, to be honest. Me and the other teachers. Uh, and it is, so you don't get that anymore. It's a great time to be alive, growing up as a teenager, listening to Pink Floyd. I remember it well. I remember smoking some marijuana and thinking I was in a spaceship with Pink Floyd, and actually kind of similar to this. They were all negative. I was looking around me. I think they used to lace the marijuana with angel dust back then. I mean, this stuff was incredibly strong, and I was just looking around, and I was in this sort of Starship Enterprise control room of a spaceship, surrounded by Pink Floyd playing "Shine On You Crazy Diamond," and which is about Sid, and the whole room was white except the dark bits of them were see through, if you know what I mean. So like this negative imagery of them. Yeah, it was better than going to school that day, I guess. He and them started making a name for themselves. His first song, his first single, their first single, was Arnold Lane, which is about a paraphiliac, a man who would steal ladies' underwear from washing lines. There was a newspaper article about a guy in Cambridge that was doing that. I tried to look into more information about it. Not because of this, I just was interested in doing that. This is years before I even heard of Pink Floyd. Arnold Lane, he was a sexual paraphiliac, I think it's called. I'm assuming he would take the ladies' undergarment. I don't want to get into what he was doing. That's what Sid thought he would write a song about. You know, when there's enough love songs about flowers and the moon and June, might as well get a sex offender song in there. And that's what he did. And it kind of made an impact. He's got it was like the Herman Hermits on LSD and Mandrax. That was another. He was taking vast amounts of LSD, but also Mandrax, which I think is a British name for Quaaludes. And Quaalude, I'm not sure. I don't think they make them anymore. It's sort of like Valium, but basically a way to help you become catatonic without smashing your head into a concrete wall, which can be quite painful. Hey, it's starting to come together, eh? What do you think of this? Got the skull there. This is old stuff. I've just chucked it on. Like I'm saying, this is the first time I've done this. I don't know what it's going to be like. I'm going to do more stuff. I'm going to print these out and actually draw on them. Use them to and do a bit of actual physical art, not just using the computer for once. Like it's sort of like making love rather than looking at people making love, which is what most of us do nowadays. No, that's what I'll be doing after I finish this. Hmm, not bad. Okay, it's kind of finished there, but I think I've got quite a bit more to do. I'm not sure I've recorded. Anyway, so he's with the band. He's they're going well. Things are going well. 67, height swinging 60s. They're all wearing ruffles and M&M shoes and candy-colored clowns called the Sandman outfits. And he keeps having LSD with his cornflakes every morning. And they're getting on top of the pops. I remember Roger Waters saying that Sid didn't want to go on Top of the Pops because John Lennon didn't have to go on Top of the Pops. So, and then Roger going, "What are you talking about? This is the whole point of being a pop star, is to get on Top of the Pops." I guess maybe Sid had run into Jimmy Savile earlier when he was a Boy Scout because Jimmy Savile used to host Top of the Pops. It's one of the most unfortunate things. A lot of these great old bands you see from the 60s, the footage on the BBC, they'll all be introduced by Jimmy Savile, which is kind of distasteful. At least it isn't Prince Andrew, but still. So he was taking his LSD. They were getting bigger and bigger, traveling around Britain in a little shitty van, as most of the bands used to do back then. And he started, like a lot of young people in their late teens and early 20s, started to, I guess it would be called, exhibit symptoms of schizophrenia. I'm assuming that's what he had. I think as I have a couple of friends who were schizophrenics. Very fun people. They don't really have a filter. They just say whatever they think, which is they should get into comedy actually. And they just chain them up in a cage afterwards and then chuck them on stage. And I could be a manager to that. Maybe I should visit local insane asylums. Maybe get some show business contacts. And anyway, so he started becoming more withdrawn. They would be on TV. He would just stand there and not even strum his guitar, just dead eyes looking into the camera, pretty much like your average BBC presenter. And but except he had an excuse because he actually had a soul. Um, so he's looking in there, looking in the camera. He's not playing any chords. He's embarrassing the hell out of all the rest of the musicians. You can only pass that off as avant-garde for so long. A guy just staring in the camera, unless you're you know, at a small art college, then you can probably get away with it for years. You can become a professor doing stuff like that. He went to Camberwell School of Arts as well. I took an art class there. I met a good friend of mine. Yeah, those are the days, a long time ago. Um, and eventually, Sid became so unreliable and so withdrawn from reality that, I mean, the band gave him a chance. I mean, they spent up to 2 or 3 days or not. They were doing, there were about 6 months of having to deal with this person. They were in America touring and dealing with a guy that was losing his marbles. And eventually, one morning, they said, "Should we pick up Sid?" And one of them, I'm assuming it would be Roger, said, "Nah, let's not." So there they were. Pink Floyd. I mean, Sid was their main songwriter. He was the guy who came up with Astronomy Domine, which is a fantastic song. I love that song. I think that had an influence on Black Sabbath actually, because it also has echoes of Gustav Holst's Mars. Was it the God of War from the Host Planets, where they do the flat five? Do, do, do. That's what in the first song by Black Sabbath that also uses a flat five. If you don't know much about music, that means the root note is the basic key of the song, the note that the whole song sort of revolves around. And then the fifth note up on the piano is like the dominant note, I think it's called. That's because it's the one that most makes you want to go back to the root note because it sounds the most furthest away. And if you put that down half a note, you get the flat five, and that gives a really Black Sabbath Gustavo, discordant sort of sound, which can be very powerful in music. A lot of Black Sabbath songs use that and other people, but if you ever hear that and wonder what that is, that's what it is. So, yeah, he wrote Bike, great song, totally unique and original. I like to play that song. I didn't play it at my wedding, actually, but I wish I had. I didn't play anything I wanted at my wedding. Oh well. Um, so Sid, they basically left him by the wayside. He spent the next 4 years trying to get shit together. He released some songs. Some of them are quite beautiful. Golden Hair is one I really liked. He takes a James Joyce poem, turns it into a song. It's a really moving song. He's one of a kind. He's Sid. And it kind of the legacy of him. I mean, they were playing his songs for years. In the back of their mind, Pink Floyd felt a little bit like they not betrayed him, but let him down. Maybe you hear regrets and interviews in later years. And when they were recording, they actually decided to write an album about him. Shine On You Crazy Diamond. He's the crazy diamond. The actual song is about him. And when they were recording it in Abbey Road Studios, he famously showed up with all his hair shaved off, his eyebrows shaved off, overweight, looking like, if you see photographs of him, he looks like a typical middle-aged man, even though he was only 28. No, none of them recognized him. And he was just hanging around, and finally they recognized him. And it was at the recording of that song. Isn't that poetic? Circular poeticness. Okay. All right. How much longer have I got? Only 5 minutes. So then he spent his time, he became more and more withdrawn until finally he was living in London. He was taking his royalty checks, which they always were very, very made sure that he received his royalty checks for the music that he wrote on the albums. And he was living in London in various hotels. And then one day, I think in 1975, he decided to walk back to Cambridge and live with his mum. So in a way, he was a pioneer for millennials and Gen Z, because they also end up living with their parents too. In fact, they never move out. Poor buggers. So and that's where he lived from 75 till his death in 2006 at the age of 60. 2007? Can't remember. 2006, I think. The age of 60, he spent it. But he was still being creative. He was still doing art. Probably a lot better than this, actually, if I'm honest. Maybe I could have asked him some advice on this. Now I'm sticking. What's this I'm putting on there? This now, he looks like a bearded lady. Looks like Lady Gaga. So my mother got it. It's the first one I've ever done. I'm just waffling. It's the only way I can, get better is by doing it. So the skull is Damien Hirst, so I thought I'd sample his artwork. Well, it's not his skull. He paid for it and then he stuck a bunch of diamonds on it. Got to give Damien Hirst. I like Damien Hirst's art. I especially love his circular ones because it's obviously such a scam. Where, because he's signed, he can just produce any shit for the corporations and they'll buy it as an investment. He just get his assistants to paint a bunch of circles together and say, put some jargon next to it, and the corporations will pay him millions of dollars for it. The guy knew how to work the system. Still does. Now, I've only got 2 minutes for it, it's going well when you keep looking at the time. You probably, if anyone's still listening to this, hi, Mum. So, Sid. Oh, I got big. I got small. And I'm moving it. I think I may have recorded this right until the end because I changed it a bit. But I don't think I will. Okay, I think 25 minutes is good enough. I can't take any more of this. It's good enough. So, Sid Barrett. His real name is Roger. Everyone was called Roger back then. Roger Waters, Roger Daltrey. Nobody gets. You know any Rogers now? Rogering's also slang for carnal knowledge to roger someone. Give him a good, or her a good rogering. Depends if you're in Scouts or on LSD, I guess. But yeah, I don't know anybody called Roger. That's awful. I heard there was not one person christened Nigel last year, or 2 years ago, or a few years ago. There's no more Nigels. I mean, I can understand protesting the reform vote, but I mean, it's not that bad a name. It's Nigel. Nigel? Yeah, Mum. Come here, Nigel. Mum? What? I want to join Pink Floyd with Roger. Yeah, Roger. Which Roger? There's three of them. And Keith. Which Keith? Keith Ralph? Keith Richards? Keith Waterhouse or Keith Moon? No, Roger. Jaltree? Waters? I was Barrett. No, just Nigel. Who's Nigel? Why is there no Nigels? Mum, I want to join a band with a guy called Nigel, Mum. A band? I'm saying an Australian. That's what happens when you're sitting in this position. You're trying to do an English accent, you sound Australian. Maybe that's what it is down there. It's the gravity, they're upside down, so the English accent sounds like this. Maybe they're speaking in reverse. Maybe that's what Australian is. It's an English accent spoken reverse because they're upside down. Mum, what? I want to join a band with Nigel. Nigel?